Hi, I want to demonstrate how I want you to do your final project. So if you follow along with me, I have already started this. I created a folder on my desktop just so I'd have a convenient place to put things. And I named that folder Kuntz CB Web. And when I open it, I have a folder nested within called Source Docs, and when I open it, I have a copy of the first database file that I provided through a Moodle link. So you've seen this before, you have access to this, you've probably already downloaded it and have it stored on your computer at this point. I have also found your first project assignment for Excel, which was a sales report, and I have that Excel spreadsheet stored away. Okay, so this probably looks familiar to you. And I also created in Microsoft Word, and this was demonstrated in the video where I did an image map, so I don't think I need to show you how to use the drawing tools in Word or anything, but I created a site map which lays out the details of the final project. So what you're going to be creating are a number of web pages. So every rectangle, let's exclude these 4 rectangles down here. This is really intended to be a legend just so that you can keep straight in your mind what needs to be done. Excuse me. But otherwise, in this tree diagram, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rectangles that represent web pages that are hyperlinked together that make up your website. So let me walk you through some of the details here, and then I'll do this in part, do a few things just to show you how to do it. But first off, using Expression Web, you will create a home page, and that home page will contain a site map. Okay, so we're going to have a picture inserted into it, and we're going to have to go in and build an image map on that picture. The picture then will look like this diagram that you see, and if you should click on this rectangle, it will take you to a page called All About Me or About Me, and this will be a page that has maybe a paragraph of content and then 2 hyperlinks, one to resume.htm and another to favoritelinks.htm. So there'll be 2 hyperlinks, conventional hyperlinks on this page. And feel free to put a picture of yourself on this page. Put again about a paragraph worth of text, just a little sharing of information about who you are and so forth. Whatever you feel comfortable sharing with me. And then this page 2 will be created in Expression Web. There will be a link to a resume page, and I'll demonstrate how to create this, but you'll be using Microsoft Word. So you notice down here in the legend it says converted Word document. You're going to use a template in Microsoft Word to create a resume and then save that resume as a web page, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, and then you will also have an acknowledgments page created in Expression Web, and any material, namely pictures that you might get from other websites, I'll expect you to acknowledge your source and provide a hyperlink back to the page where you extracted that picture, and I'll show you how that's done because I'll be using some pictures as I create this page called Favorite Links. Okay, so again, home page created in Expression Web, About Me created in Expression Web, maybe a picture, paragraph worth of information, and then 2 hyperlinks. One will hyperlink to a web page that you're going to create from a Word document, and then a second hyperlink to a page that I'll demonstrate here in a moment that will contain a table with 3 columns and 4 rows. And within each of the cells of that table will be hyperlinks to various external websites. Okay, again, I'll explain the details here momentarily. Then your home page will also link to an acknowledgement page where you come clean on any pictures that you might get from other sites, any resources you get from other sites. Then there's going to be yet another page that you will create in Expression Web that will have 2 hyperlinks. So the amount of content on this page is going to be pretty minimal. It should have a title. It may have just a little bit of information. I leave it up to you to come up with the bare essential information needed to make this functional. But for the most part, it's going to serve to hyperlink to Spreadsheet 1 and Spreadsheet 2. So you had to create some spreadsheets previously in Excel. Those spreadsheets can be saved in a web format, so I'm going to ask that you go back to your previous spreadsheets, open them up, and save them as web pages, and then they will be the web pages that are represented here in blue. So not really creating anything. All you have to do is just open the file, do a save as, make the proper selection, and the software will automatically convert them into a web compatible format. Okay, and then finally there is going to be one more web page that will be created in Microsoft Access, and so that's the reason why I asked that you download, if it's not already downloaded, but have access to the HR database. And before the lecture is over here, I'll go through details of that. But you're basically going to have to create a query, and from that query you're going to have to create a report, and from that report you're going to have to save it as a web page. So we'll go through all those details here shortly. All right, so this is your website, and what I'm going to do is in Microsoft Word, go to the zoom slider here, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, okay? And then I'm going to do a screen capture, so print screen from a PC keyboard. If it's a laptop PC, probably function print screen. Have to do 2 keys in combination. And on the Mac, I have to remember what this is. Function Shift F11, I think. Okay, they made it really complicated here. I have my MacBook set up so it dual boots, so it can either boot up to a Windows operating system or the Mac OS. And when I'm in Windows, I have to deal with some funny features regarding the keyboard here. All right, so hopefully I have done a screen capture, and if I then click on the Start button and search for Paint. Don't know what happened here. Did something wrong. Try that again. Windows 8, you gotta love it. All right, let me try it again. All right, so as I type in Paint, it eventually gives me a menu, and I can select from it. And I'm going to open the Paint application up. You'll notice that my canvas is shrunk down to a very minimal size, and I'm going to paste with a Control V. So I did in fact get the screen from the previous print screen attempt, and I'm going to within Paint then try to crop the diagram so that I'm only getting the tree part of the diagram, and I'm cropping it with a minimal amount of white space around the edge. So once I do that, I'm going to do a Control X, which will cut, which is to say that it's going to take the selected image, put it on the clipboard, that reserved area of memory that Windows uses to store things temporarily. So it's going to take that digital image, put it on the clipboard, and then I'm going to select New from the File pull-down menu. It's going to ask me if I want to save. I'm going to say Don't Save, and it will bring up a new canvas, again, at a minimal size, and I want this at this point to be very minimal, and I'll do a Control-V and paste, and what I have pasted then is that selected image. And I'm going to save this, do a Save As. I will save it in my folder on the desktop. Okay, so Kuntz Web is what I have, and I'm going to save it right in the folder with the rest of my web pages. So I'm going to call this sitemap, and I'm going to change the file type from PNG to JPEG, although PNG should work fine. I believe I've done it with PNG files before as well. And I'm going to save. Okay, so now this selected part of the image is saved in a graphics file. And I'm going to close everything up. It's going to ask, do you want to save? I'm going to say don't save. And now what I see is, if I go up one level here, because I'm currently accessing the nested source docs folder, so if I go up one level with a click on this icon, I see that JPEG file, and it is in the same folder as the folder where I'm keeping all my web pages. Okay, so from that Word document, source document, I was able to create the JPEG file that I need to insert in my home page. Okay, now I want you to name your home page index.htm. Okay, so in the sitemap, I was very specific about the file names that I want you to use. The names that are contained within parentheses are the file names that you should use. And that's going to make life a lot easier on me when I go to grade things, if everybody names things in a standard way. If you start getting creative and deviating from this, then you're only going to irritate me, and I'll be looking for mistakes more closely. So do yourself a favor and do this the way I'm describing. All right, so there is a file called index.htm. It is the initial home page for my website, and in that file I want to insert this picture and create an image map. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to open this with Expression Web. Again, I told you that Expression Web is available as a free download. I would expect you to go ahead and get a copy of that and be using it. That way we're all working from the same application. So I'm going to open with Expression Web, and I'm going to drop down here, hit the return key at timer 2. I'm going to center, and I'm going to go to the File pull-down menu and choose Insert Picture from File. I guess it was the Insert pull-down menu. Okay, so I'm going to insert picture from file, and I need to navigate to the desktop. So if I start typing DESK up here in the address line, it'll bring up desktop. And on the desktop I have this folder, Kuntz Web, and in that folder I have a JPEG file which it sees, and I'll open that, I'll insert it. Now, you recall that when a picture is inserted into a web page, it uses a IMG or an image tag, and that there is a required attribute for that, and I'm going to call this sitemap, like that. So there's my alternate text. Maybe I ought to put a space in there, sitemap, and that way, that will be displayed if the picture doesn't load for some reason, or if some software is trying to translate into text, it'll read sitemap. So I say OK to that. The picture is inserted. I'm going to go ahead and save. So I do a save. It's just going to update this file, rewrite to the same file. And now I'm at a point where I'm ready to create the image map. And one of the pages that I have created, I didn't create them all, you have to create them all, but I'm doing this in part just to show you how to do it. One of the pages that I have created myself for demonstration purposes is favorite links. So I'm going to do a little bit of this image map, and to do that I need to go to the View, Toolbars, Pictures toolbar if it's not showing. So that's how you get to the Pictures toolbar, and once you make that selection, then you should see the toolbar dock at the top of the page. Now, if the picture itself is not in focus, the toolbar is going to be grayed out. It's going to be inactive. If I click on the picture, you see that it becomes active, and I have access to 3 hotspot tools: the rectangular, circular, and polygonal hotspot tools. Since these shapes are rectangular, this is going to be the easiest tool to trace the outline of the shape. So I'm going to choose from the Pictures toolbar the rectangular hotspot tool, and I'm going to come down here, and when I move on top of the picture, the mouse pointer becomes a pencil looking icon, and as I drag it around this part, the part that I want to associate with that link, and release, it brings up an insert hyperlink dialog box, and I want to link to favorite links. Okay, and then I'm going to save. And again, you're going to have to provide links, throughout this diagram. I'm doing just a small part of it. So what is favorite links? I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here now. And I'm going to take a look at favorite links. Okay, so what is it? Well, let's just see if that link works. So if I go to the index page, and I open it with an actual browser, there's the diagram. No link here, no link here, but there is one here, and if I click, this is the favorite links page. Okay, so it is a table. You'll need to create a table with 3 columns and 4 rows. And the top row is just going to contain text that makes up the column heading, and then the next 3 rows are going to contain a combination of text and pictures. Okay, so make this about 50-50. Combination of text and pictures that provide hyperlinks to sites of your choosing. Now, you can choose any themes that you want to, but everything down this column ought to relate to sports, everything down this column ought to relate to news, everything down this column ought to relate to technology. So, if you have some completely different theme, like, I don't know, biking and dance, or, I'm just making stuff up off the top of my head. But then, under biking, you would have, maybe a link to Lance Armstrong's website. I don't know whether he has a website anymore or not, probably does. But, whatever, you choose as favorite links, these are just, external websites, and you're providing a convenient launch pad within your website, within this web page, within your website. You're providing a convenient launch pad to link to places that, are places that you like to visit. Okay, so let me continue on. ESPN, all right, so let's build it. Let's also put a picture in here. CBS has a familiar logo, the CBS I logo. We'll just go ahead and insert a picture, make a hyperlink on it, and so forth. So I want to open my favorite links page with Expression Web. You can write the HTML in Notepad if you want to, but I'm doing it in Expression Web here. And I want to create a hyperlink right here. Now, what you might want to do is actually first open your browser, my email. Let me try this different browser, okay. There we are. Here's Google, and must be World Cup, yep, okay. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to type in ESPN, and that should provide me with a link to their homepage. Okay, so I'm going to click here. Wait for it to load. There we are. Okay, so here apparently is ESPN's homepage, and I'm going to just highlight the address line up here, just the text in the address line, do a Control-C, have that on the clipboard, and then go back to Expression Web, highlight the text, go to the Insert pull-down menu, or I could use the hyperlink tool right here. Either one's going to accomplish the same thing because there is a menu option to hyperlink. And down here where it says address, Control-V, I just paste that in. And if I do it the way I just described, by actually opening the browser, going to the website, copying the text from the address line, then I'm assured that I'm not going to make any kind of error in typing this in. So I'm just going to say OK to that. And now I've got a hyperlink here. Now, what about pictures used as hyperlinks? Well, first of all, I need to insert a picture. So this is going to take a little doing. I'm going to first open my browser window. I'm going to go to maybe CBS News website. So CBS News. Oh, there was a, if I go back, there was the perfect picture right there. Let me go back. Okay, so I could navigate around here and find that CBSI, but if I go back, here's what I'm talking about. Okay, here's the CBSI logo. So what I'm going to do is function Shift F11 on a Mac, or function print screen on a PC laptop, or from a standard PC keyboard, just print screen, execute whatever's appropriate to do a screen capture. And then I'm going to close this up, go back to Paint, and search for Paint. Control-V, and guess what? We're going to jump through all those hoops that we went through before, and I'm going to select just this part of it right here, so I could catch the CBS there, I guess, in the bottom as well. Do a Control-X. Now I will want to acknowledge CBS because I'm going to use something from their website. So on that acknowledgement page, you'll need to say, you know, thanks to all these websites, and list CBS and have a hyperlink back to this page. And I'm not going to save that part of it. Ooh, I should have. What am I thinking? My mind's starting to wander here. I don't know how long I've been going back into Paint. That's still on the clipboard, so I should be able to paste it. And I'm going to do a undo, if I can figure out where that is, and shrink this canvas down even smaller. Okay, and now do a Control-V and paste, and that way I don't have any white space around the edge. I'm going to do a File, Save As. I'm going to save in my folder, and I'm going to call this CBS, and I will save it also as a JPEG file. Save. And now, if I click on this cell, having set it for center alignment and so forth, and attempt to insert a picture from a file, I can find that file in my main folder here and insert it and put in CBS logo or something like that. Say OK to that. And now I have a picture here, okay? And if I click on the picture and choose my hyperlink tool, this time I'll choose it from the toolbar, I can hyperlink to CBS's website, okay? So I forgot to capture that on the clipboard, so very quickly I will say CBS News, capture, let's see, breaking news, need to go to CBS News website here. All right, now then I'm at the CBS News website, and is taxpayer money being wasted in Afghanistan? Huh, imagine that, taxpayer money being wasted. I'm going to highlight what's in the address line, Control-C, close that up. And now, in Expression Web, I'm going to insert a hyperlink, and I will Control-V, paste that in there. And now I have a hyperlink to CBS's website. Okay, so that's the idea. You're going to create a table with 3 columns, 4 rows, first row being column headings, the next 3 rows being a combination of text and pictures that serve as hyperlinks to your favorite sites. And I'm going to save that and close it up. And now if I go to the index page, open with a browser, I find my sitemap. Now there ought to be a title at the top, and change the background color to something other than white maybe. I mean, you can do a lot of things here to jazz this up and make it look nice. All I'm doing is just the critical parts of this so you see what's going on. But under favorite links, then you'll have a hyperlink from your home page. All these will be hyperlinked, remember. And then that will launch you here, and if you want to go to CBS News site, you would click here, okay, and eventually that will take you to CBS News website. Okay, so hopefully that part of it makes sense. Now let's go back to the sitemap again. I'll just actually open the index page for a moment. So I'll open with Firefox. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages that have been colored in orange. These are pages that are created in Expression Web. These are pages that must use CSS rules, specifically external CSS rules, and you must use a minimum of 3 rules. So, your rules can be whatever you want, controlling the size of text, the font that's used, back color, font color, play around with it. You can use Expression Web to generate the CSS. Then you need to change the class selector name, and you need to copy that over to a text file where your external CSS rules will be stored. So I'm expecting you to use external CSS. And what's not shown here is that when you submit your final project, you're going to have to submit a file for each one of these web pages, and you're also going to have to provide that .css file so that whenever I graded it, it works properly. Okay, so Expression Web with external CSS for all the orange pages. Now let's take a look at the resume page. How can I create that? I'm going to go ahead and launch Microsoft Word. And let's see, how do I want to do this? Let's see, business letter, blog, resume. Here's an example of a resume. Okay, and you can go online and get other resumes. So I'm not saying that this is the one to use necessarily, but it will work. There are resumes and CVs that templates that are specific to different careers. Like there'll be a resume for technology, a resume for business, and so forth. But I'm just going to use this probably generic resume, and I'll tell it to create. And then what it's going to do is begin to, prompt me as to what to put in here. So where it says Chuck Kuntz, that's a, I don't know where it's getting that. It's stored somewhere in the system. It pulls that out of some file. So when I set up my computer, it probably asked me who I was, and I said Chuck Kuntz. But if I were interviewing for a job, I might want to use my real name, and I might want to use my middle initial and say Charles B. Kuntz. And my address is 4005 East 900 North, and going on. You see how that, put in my telephone number, put in my email. Down here, put in some summary information here. Computer skills, these are the languages that I would use. This is software that I'm familiar with. I think this is apparent how this works, so you just fill in the details. I'm having you do this because obviously after you get your education, you're going to apply for a job. You may already have a resume created in Word, and if you do, use it. I don't want to create any more work than what's absolutely necessary, but if you don't have a resume, time to get one started anyway. So go ahead and fill this in, to whatever extent you can, and then you'll go to the File pull-down menu. I thought you would. Let's see. Let me go back here. How about save? What the heck? Let me go back here. Let me go back. There. Finally, I'm here. Okay. I want to go to the File pull-down menu, choose Save As. All right. And let's see, Source Docs. Yeah, might as well save that in the Source Doc folder, okay, and save it as a docx file, which is a Word file format. I would save it once like that because you may want to come back and use this later on. Then turn right around and do a Save As, and this time rather than saving in the Source Doc folder, I need to navigate elsewhere. I want to browse to the Kuntz web folder here where everything's being stored, and this is how I'm going to save it as a web page. So I'll go to the Save As Type pull down list, and I'm going to save it as a web page, and I've got three options on web page: single file web page, web page HTML, web page filtered. All right, now let me tell you the way I want this. Save it as a single file web page. All right, it may not render the best representation of your Word document, but it's going to be convenient for you to submit. If you were really doing this, and wanted the best representation of your Word document, I would suggest that you use web page as opposed to single file or web page filtered. And what web page will do is it'll give you, again, the best rendering of the source document, but it also creates an additional folder with a lot of graphics files embedded in it, and that folder has to be kept with the file that you're creating on the web server. So that's going to be awkward for us. It means that you're going to have to try to figure out how to get a folder uploaded in Moodle, and I don't think that's possible. So just as a convenience, and again, this may look pretty trashy, and if it does, I don't really care, but use single file web page, and it's going to put an MHT file name extension on here. So be heads up to that when you hyperlink. It will not contain the standard .htm or HTML file name extension. This web page filter is another option, and if there aren't a lot of graphics, you know, if it's fairly simple, just text file, this one's a pretty good option. It does not create that additional folder, and it also uses less storage space. So, you know, this is going to be your very best rendering. This is the way we're going to do it just because we're submitting through Moodle. So I'll make that selection, okay, and tell it to save. And let's see, what is it going to say? Some of the features in this document aren't supported by web browsers. Absolute row height, blah, blah, blah. You know, deal with it. Just, you know, do what you have to do to save it. And as you can tell, you know, it's not the best rendering of it, but it'll be acceptable for our purposes. And I'm going to close that up. And so here's my file. And if I open this in the browser, I'll just open with, I wonder what happens. It doesn't show me, it doesn't show me Firefox as an option on the browser. This you know, proprietary format may only work with Internet Explorer, but that's okay. You know, again, for our purposes, I'm not going to go crazy with this idea. If it really is the real deal, then maybe the better way to save this is in a PDF file format. So you get lots of options, but use this option just to simplify things. All right. Let's take a look at the index page again. So I'm going to open with Firefox. I do have that option on a standard page. So we know how to do the pages in orange. We know how to deal with the resume. We know about favorite links. Okay, and now spreadsheets. Let's take a look at that. So you're going to create a page in Expression Web that will have, again, fairly minimal content, but you got to have enough content there to be able to format it with 3 external CSS rules. And I want to say one more thing about that, external CSS rules. Apply the same rules here, 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 here. Apply all 3 of those rules, okay? So all these pages in orange should be sharing 3 common rules. That's the whole idea behind external CSS, is to write the rule once, and then I can use it over and over again in any number of pages. And if I ever need to make a global change to my website, I go to that one rule, make the change, and the change cascades down through all the pages that are invoking it. Let's look at Excel. How do I deal with Excel? Almost identical to what's going on in Word. Okay, so what you're going to do, and I'll go to my source documents here, and I just happen to have a Excel spreadsheet, so I'm going to open it. And I'm going to do a file save as, which, you know, allows me then to browse to whatever location I want to go to. I'm going to put it in the same folder as the rest of my web pages because I'm going to make the same selection here and save as, wherever I find that. Save as a web page. Okay, so save as single file web page. All right, and I'm going to save this as a PDF. How's that? I'll just save it as PDF. Save it as PDF, and tell it save. So you can link to a PDF as well. Just remember the file name extension is going to be different. All right, and I'm going to close that. Hopefully I got that saved right. And I don't want to save this. So did that actually save? I may have messed up. Let me try that one more time. So if I save as a PDF, I'm going to open again with Excel. and I'm going to do a file save as. I'm going to browse for my folder here, and if I save as a PDF file, now I could save it as a single file web page, okay, so you can do it either way, I don't care, but let's see what happens when we do it as PDF. If I choose PDF, then it shows me the icon. It's putting it in the right location. I'm going to say save. Says it already exists. I didn't see it. I may be just overlooking it. So I'll say yes, overwrite it. I'm sure to have it now. And I don't know why it keeps opening this up. I want to go over here to the bottom right corner where the clock is, right click on it, and show desktop. And I'm going to leave that the application's open, and I'm going to look here, and yes, in fact, there is a PDF file in there. Okay, so that's fine. Somehow I didn't see that before. All right, so in any case, if I go back over here to the clock and right click and say show the desktop. All right. I should have had one to return back to the document. I'm not sure what happened there exactly. Having my problems here. Sorry about that. I'm doing this unrehearsed and unscripted, so you get what you get here. All right. So in any case, I have a PDF file, and you can link to that PDF file. So when you create a hyperlink, maybe I should just do that. If I go back to my index page, open it with Firefox. No, what am I doing? Don't want to open that in Firefox. Close that up. Go to my index page. I want to open with Expression Web, and I'll create a hyperlink here. So that's on, we'll pretend that's spreadsheet 1, right? So click on the picture. It highlights the tools on the picture toolbar, and I'll choose the rectangular hotspot tool, and I will trace this part of the diagram, and it automatically opens to the last folder, which is the folder that I want. Otherwise you have to navigate to it. And here's the PDF file, so I'm just going to double click on that and then save and close this up. And now I'm going to open my home page with Firefox, and I should have a hyperlink here, and when I hyperlink, it takes me to a PDF file. Okay, so I'm going to be able to see that. Okay, so it didn't get it all on one page, so it has to scroll down. Okay, so there are some details here that get lost in translation, and I don't really care. Okay, so you know the technique if you need to do this, and you can format your spreadsheet accordingly so you get the best rendering in HTML or in the PDF file. Now I think, as I think about this, when that's saved in a PDF file, I think within whatever it is, Adobe Acrobat or whatever it is, I think you've got an option in Adobe to resave that and get everything saved on one page. So again, there's some details here where you could probably finesse that PDF file and make it more acceptable, but play around with it on your own time. Okay, so let me go back to the index page again. So open that with Firefox. What do we know how to do? We know how to do all the pages in orange. We know how to do the pages in yellow. We know how to do the blue pages now. And what we need to do is figure out how to do this page, and then it's up to you to complete it in its full-blown glory. So what I want to do is I want to create a database report here. And let's see, I'm going to need to go to my source doc folder. So when I open it, I find the database that I gave you for assignment 1 and use the copy that you've already downloaded if you still have it. Otherwise, you're going to have to download it from the Moodle site. When you open it, you're going to get this security warning. Consider that to be a benign warning because somehow the properties of this file are getting changed when we download it. So just say open. And I'm going to look at the relationship diagram here. And an interesting query that we could make would involve the employee table and the insurer table. And if you go back and review the video that I did on queries, the very last query I did involved an inner join, and sometimes I'm interested in the records that can be correlated between two tables, and sometimes I'm interested in the records that do not correlate. So in this instance, what I'd like to do is create a query where my result set shows the employees that do not have insurance. Okay? So maybe I want to try to get them to sign up for insurance or something like that. Now, if I look at the total number of employees, looking down here at the status bar at the bottom of the table, is 17. Okay, you say, well, it says 18 there. Well, somewhere along the way, yeah, let's see, 1, 2, 3, record number 4 has been previously deleted. So anytime I delete a record, that primary key value is never used again. It's only used once, and if the record gets deleted, it will never be reused. So record number 4 at some point in time was deleted, and therefore, even though the highest ID number is 18, and even though they're more or less in sequential order, in fact they are in sequential order, record number 4 is missing from that sequence. So there are 17 total employee records, and if I close that and look at the insure table, there are, looking at the foreign key values, employee number 1 should be excluded from the list because employee number 1 has vision and dental. Employee number 2 should be excluded from the list because they have medical, and employee number 3 should be excluded from the list because they have medical and dental. So there are 3 of the 17 employees that should not appear in the list. 3 of the employees have insurance, and 14 of the employees do not have insurance. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And so let's take a look at actually insurer table one more time. Employee 1, 2, and 3, who are they? These are the employees that should not appear in the list. So if I go back to the employee table, Kuntz, Blanco, and Parks. Looking at the primary key values here, I see that Kuntz, Blanco, and Parks, employees 1, 2, and 3, should not appear in the result set if I'm writing a query that's going to display the names of the employees that do not have insurance. Okay, so I'm going to create this query real quickly by going to the Create page, choosing Query Design, closing the dialog box, going straight to the SQL editor, and doing a little speed typing. And so I'm going to be projecting, okay, these are the columns that are going to be output, the employee last name and the employee first name column. I'm going to do an inner join, which is going to, left inner join. It's going to give me a complete listing of the employee records, and it's going to correlate as many as possible with the corresponding records in the insure table, and where it cannot correlate the employee records, it'll fill in the insure fields with a value of null. Okay, and I correlate based on primary key equal foreign key, and I want to use some selection criteria here. So in the final output, I only want the records where the uncorrelated fields which are set to null, where the uncorrelated fields show up. And I'm going to choose one of the uncorrelated fields from the insure table, insure type. I could have used any column in creating that selection criteria. So I could have said where insure underscore ID is null or something like that. And incidentally, when I use null, I cannot use the equal operator. I have to use the is operator. Okay, so that's a SQL thing. All right, so again, I had 3 employees that had insurance. I had a total of 17 employees overall. So 17 minus 3, if I run the query, should be 14 employees. And there are the 14 employees that are output. And you'll notice that Kuntz, Parks, and whoever the other one was, Blanco or something like that, those 3, Kuntz, Blanco, and Parks, yeah, those 3 are excluded from this list. So I have a result set, right? And I may then want to save the query. So I'm going to save this as QRY1. Okay. And if I close that up, then go to the navigation bar and filter for queries. There's my query. All right, I'm going to close up the relationship diagram. Now that I have a query, I can generate a report. So step 2 in this process after you create the query is to generate the report. And the report that I want to generate then, I need to go to the create page. I need to choose reports. And I'm going to use the report wizard. And there was a video on how to do this, so I'm just going to do this quick and dirty so you see the report. I'm not going to attempt to go into design view and move things around and change column headings and change the title or anything like that. I'm just going to make this quick and dirty. And so I'm going to add all fields from my query. So if that's not selected, you'll want to make sure your query is selected. So I remember naming it QRY1. And I'm going to say next. And do you want to add any grouping? I'm just going to say next and next. Again, not attempting to do anything fancy at all here. And what do you want as a title? Let it be QRY1. I'm not going to change it or anything. And there is my output. Okay, so you can recognize that result set. And I'm going to save. Okay, I think it already saved. All right, so that's step 2. Take your time. When you do this, make your report look nice. Don't do something quick and dirty like I did. Take your time, go into design view, fix it up, all that stuff. All right, so that being done, I'm going to close up the report. And now next thing I want to do is generate the web page. And to do that, I need to go to the external data page. So I click on the external data tab. I have to remember where this is. And I want to go to export. Okay, so I want to output export. And I believe the option I want is under the more pull down menu. I haven't done this for a while, so yeah, it's under the more pull down menu. And I'm going to choose HTML document. Now it begins to run a wizard. Let's see. Select this option to preserve most formatting and layout information when exporting a table. I never do this. You can play around with this and see what it does, but apparently this is going to render the report in a truer form. Okay, so you might try that to see what happens. It is going to create a file here with an HTML file name extension, except I'm going to change that to HTM. It's going to name it QRY1. It's going to attempt to put it in one of my default user folders, but I'm going to browse for the desktop, and I'm going to save this in the Kuntz web folder with the rest of the web pages. So it's set to save it as qr1.htm, save. And so now it has targeted the correct folder. I'll say OK to that. And it says it successfully exported it. The steps that I went through in this wizard can be saved so that if I want to do this again, I don't have to run through the wizard, but I'm not interested in that, so I'm just going to say close. And now if everything has worked according to plan, if I go back to the folder with all of my web pages, I find the QRY1 HTM folder, and if I open it in a browser, it should resemble, whoa, really bad. Okay, I'm going to go through this again. So it creates a table with that output, but it's not very good. Okay, let me close that up, and I'm going to go through that query again. So my access database, let's see, probably don't have that query saved. All right. Yeah, I do. Okay, so here's my query, right? And now let me run through these steps again. The review, I suppose, won't hurt anything. So I want to create a report. Let's see, I don't need to generate the report again, though. If I look here for reports, the report has already been generated. I should be able to just go to the external data page, under the export ribbon, choose more, choose HTML document, and this time the option is checked. Before it was not checked. I'm surprised. I don't ever remember having to check anything, so it's attempting to check it this time. It wants to save it in that folder that I don't want to save it in, so I will have to navigate to the desktop, to the folder where I have all the other web pages. And I'm going to name this Query1 HTML, which will differ than from Query1 HTM. Okay, and then I'll just delete Query1 HTM here shortly. And tell it to save. Okay, so it wants to save in the correct location. All right, it's going to keep the formatting options apparently. Okay. Yeah, this looks more familiar. So that checkbox did need to be done. I can change this to a Unicode UTF-8 encoding standard. I'll just leave it at default, but we've seen this in a meta tag before. And I'll say OK to that. And I'm going to close without saving these steps. And now go back to my folder where I have Query1 HTML. And this time, if I open with Firefox, I get a much better rendering of my report. Okay, so it looks a little nicer. Notice it date stamps it here at the bottom. Now I'll show you something else real quick. I'm going to open this with Expression Web. I want you to see what has happened here. And if I go to the code page, what you see is that it creates a bunch of tables. Okay, so there's a table with one row and let's see here, TR, TD. Looking to see how this does this exactly. All right. Well, it's creating basically a table structure. So as you look at it, you can probably see a lot of familiar HTML code in there. While you're in Expression Web, if you want to do any kind of enhancements, okay, so I could change that now here to query. Try this again. my whole point is that I'm really just creating HTML at this point. I'm going to actually do this a little bit differently. I'm going to go down here in the code window, follow this down to the body, and I will insert a heading. So I'll just put a H1 tag in here, and I'll just call this employees without insurance report, Employees without insurance, and I flip over here to design view, and there we are. So I can take this and make modifications to it if I want to. That was my whole point. If I save and if I close this up and then open it with a browser, it's going to look like that. Okay, so I can make some adjustments to it with an HTML editor by going in and changing the HTML if I want to. I'm just using a utility program in Microsoft Access to take a report and generate a web page from that report specification. Okay, I think that's everything. Let's take a look at this query1.html. This is the one, if you recall, if I open it with Firefox, that shows up like that. I'm going to guess that it's just basically either a table or a bunch of tables. Let's see what it looks like. So if I view page source right from the browser, how did it generate this? It created a table with a table row. Yeah, okay, so it just created one great big table here. The other one creates multiple tables. This is very straightforward. It doesn't look all that nice, but it's very straightforward. So whether I check the formatting option when I create the HTML output, or whether I leave it unchecked, it's still going to generate the basic report structure based upon using tables. Okay, so hopefully that makes it real clear as to how you would go about, let me go back to the index page here, open with Firefox, how you would go about doing this final page. Now, what do I want you to do? I want you to create a query in Access using the HR database. I want that query to use two tables, and I want the query to be different from what I demonstrated in this video. So pretty much any other query you want to come up with, you go to the relationship diagram, you look at the data, and you decide, what would make for an interesting report. You go ahead and construct the query to do that, and once you have the query working, you'll need to then generate a report from it. Once you get the report created, you're going to need to generate a web page from it, and then you'll store your web page in the folder with the rest of your web pages and link it, into your sitemap diagram here. I think I've told you everything I need to tell you. Good luck, and if you have questions, be sure to email or call me.